The Void Sea was not just a name, it was a warning. Ships didn't vanish there, they were consumed. Civilizations lost entire fleets to its endless black waves, their calls for help reduced to static, their hulls twisted into cosmic grave markers. Even the most advanced empires, the Zyril Dominion and the Nethra Confederacy, had declared the region untouchable, a place where physics shattered, time fragmented, and nothing living returned. Nothing. Until now, the galaxy's most watched transmission wasn't a declaration of war or a royal decree. It was a single, chilling sentence broadcast across every known channel, spoken in a human voice, gravelly, calm, and resolute. The Void Sea is mine now. Don't follow me unless you plan to kneel. Panic erupted across star systems. The Zyril scrambled their war councils. The Nethra's intelligence networks ran simulations, all of which ended in chaos. No human ship had been recorded entering the Void Sea, yet the message bore Earth's linguistic signature, unmistakably human. Who was bold, or mad, enough to stake claim over the galaxy's most feared cosmic anomaly? The camera feeds of distant observation satellites caught the faintest glimpse of movement. A single ship, human-made, old and scarred, the Dauntless, thought destroyed decades ago in the Solarian Wars. Now it sailed towards the cosmic abyss, dwarfed by the swirling dark tendrils of the Void Sea, which pulsed like a living thing, waiting to devour. Most believed it was a bluff. Some prayed it was. But for Captain Elias Crowe, standing at the helm of the Dauntless, the void wasn't something to fear. It was something to master. His fingers danced across the console, the ship creaking under the weight of energies no vessel was meant to endure. Crew members strapped in, exchanging glances equal parts fear and awe. "Captain," his first officer, Lieutenant Voss, whispered, eyes fixed on the churning darkness ahead. "This is suicide," Crowe smirked, voice like distant thunder. "Suicide's when you don't come back. I plan on returning." And as the Dauntless plunged forward, swallowed by the maw of cosmic chaos, the galaxy held its breath. Because everyone knew what the Void Sea did to those who entered. No one expected someone to claim it as their throne. The Void Sea wasn't just darkness. It was a living contradiction. Endless, shifting and hungry. Inside the Dauntless, emergency lights flickered as the ship creaked against unseen forces. Gravity fluctuated. Crew members clenched their harnesses, bracing against the disorienting pressure that pressed against their bodies like an ocean of invisible hands. The hull groaned, metal straining against energies that defied reason. Captain Elias Crowe stood at the helm, his gaze fixed on the viewing screen displaying an impossible sight. Swirls of colorless void folding in on itself, warping space-time like a predator circling its prey. His jaw clenched. This wasn't just a mission, it was personal. "Status?" Crowe barked. Lieutenant Voss's fingers danced across her console. "Shields at 62%. Structural integrity holding. For now. Navigation is—" Her screen glitched, with chaotic symbols, then cleared only to distort again. "Let's just say we're flying blind." Crowe's smirk didn't fade. "Flying's flying." Across the deck, Chief Engineer Maddox cursed under his breath. "This is madness. The void doesn't just break physics, it laughs at it. We should have turned back the moment sensors went dead." "And yet here you are," Crowe shot back. "You knew what you signed up for." Maddox grumbled, but said no more. Truth was, no one on this ship was here by accident. The Dauntless was crewed by outcasts, survivors, and those who had nowhere else to go. People like Voss, former Nethra intelligence, officer turned defector, or Maddox, stripped of his rank after exposing corruption on Earth's Defense Council. They all had demons. But none like Crowe. "Approaching critical depth," Voss announced. Her voice was steady, but her knuckles whitened as she gripped the console. "Past this point, no ships ever recorded data." Crowe's gaze didn't waver. That's why we're here. But the truth, the real reason, went deeper than discovery, deeper than glory. It was about vengeance. Memories flickered through his mind, an old battlefield, screams swallowed by silence, and her face. A promise broken under the weight of orders he'd never forgive himself for following. The void sea had taken something from him long ago. This was his answer. Not surrender, not acceptance. Dominance. Engage hull stabilizers, Crowe ordered. Maddox's console sparked. They'll burn out in 10 minutes. Then we'll only need 9. The Dauntless pressed onward, its engines howling as gravitational ripples tore around it. Outside, the swirling nothingness shifted like an eye watching, waiting. Voss glanced at Crowe. "Why you, Captain? Why this?" He hesitated just long enough. "Because someone has to prove the universe isn't invincible." A beat. Then Voss nodded. "Or you're just too damn stubborn to die." Maybe both. Suddenly, impact. The ship jolted. Alarms screaming, crew thrown from their seats. Maddox shouted over the din, "Uncharted mass! Something's out there!" Before he could finish, the view screen revealed it, a structure, vast, ancient, floating amidst the darkness like a cathedral for forgotten gods. Black stone etched with symbols no human had ever seen, pulsating with an eerie blue glow. Silence reigned. Voss whispered, "That shouldn't exist." Crowe's eyes darkened. "It's not about what should. It's about what does." And for the first time the void sea looked back. The void sea was supposed to be empty, nothingness incarnate. But reality had other plans. The ancient structure loomed outside the Dauntless, an impossible monolith, its surface rippling like liquid obsidian, pulsing with veins of pale blue light. Symbols shifted and rearranged themselves across the facade, language and mathematics intertwining into something alive. Inside the ship, an uneasy silence hung in the air, broken only by the hum of failing systems. Maddox's face drained of color. "That thing, it's not natural. This isn't just ancient, it's older than ancient. No civilization has the tech to build something like that out here." Crowe stared at the structure, jaw set. And yet there it is. Voss's fingers flew over her console, pulling up distorted scans. It's emitting gravitational waves, electromagnetic pulses, and... She trailed off, her face twisting in confusion. "Captain, it's broadcasting something," Maddox scoffed. "Broadcasting? What the hell could be sending signals from that thing?" Crowe's eyes narrowed. "Patch it through." Static filled the bridge speakers, a garbled mess of frequencies and scrambled voices. Then distorted words emerged, fragmented, layered with countless overlapping tones. "Welcome, unworthy, claim, surrender, or perish." Rhea's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's inviting us, or warning us." Crowe's lips curled into a grim smile. "Either way, we're answering." "Captain," Maddox protested, "this is insanity. We don't know what that thing is or what it wants. We should turn back, cut our losses before we become the next ghost story." "And what if this isn't just some anomaly?" Crowe shot back. "What if this is the reason no one comes back? We find answers here, or we let the galaxy keep lying to itself." The crew exchanged nervous glances. No one volunteered to argue further. "Prep. A boarding party," Crowe ordered. "Full environmental suits, no weapons unless absolutely necessary. We don't want to piss off something older than the stars." Voss nodded but hesitated. "And if it's already pissed?" Crowe's smirk returned. "Then we'll improvise." Minutes later, the boarding team assembled in the airlock. Crowe, Voss, Maddox, and 2 security officers, Patel and Henshaw. Their visors flickered online, internal comms crackling. Maddox muttered, "Why is it always me in these suicide missions?" "Because you whine the loudest," Voss shot back. Crowe keyed in the docking procedure. The Dauntless extended its maglock umbilical, connecting to an unseen port that appeared in the structure's surface as if responding to their presence. Metal groaned. Lights flickered. Hiss! The airlock cycled. "Last chance to back out," Crowe said. No one moved, not out of bravery, but out of the shared understanding. Whatever this was, running wasn't an option anymore. They stepped through. The interior defied comprehension. Vast corridors stretched into impossible angles, geometry that twisted perception, making the mind reel. Walls shifted with liquid motion, symbols glowing brighter with each step. The floor beneath them felt solid, yet footsteps made no sound. Maddox's voice shook. "Physics doesn't work here. My instruments are reading negative distances. That shouldn't exist." "It does now," Crowe replied. A low hum vibrated through the air, resonating in their bones. Lights ahead flickered, revealing a massive chamber. Beyond, pillars of shifting matter stretched toward an unseen ceiling, and at the center, a throne. Not a seat, a presence. A figure sat upon it, shrouded in darkness, form shifting between humanoid and incomprehensible patterns of light and shadow. Voss raised her weapon instinctively. "What is that?" The figure spoke. No words, just understanding, thoughts forced into their minds, bypassing language. "You come to claim what cannot be taken." Crowe stepped forward. "Didn't come to take, came to survive. Survival is for the worthy. You are not," Maddox hissed. "Captain, this thing's reading every neuron we've got. It's inside us." Crowe's voice remained steady. "Then let it read this. I don't back down, I don't kneel, and I sure as hell don't die easy." The chamber darkened. The figure rose, taller than thought possible. Light and darkness warping around it, and the void sea trembled. The chamber shifted, reality folding like paper around the figure as it rose from the throne. Its form was fluid, sometimes humanoid, sometimes a vortex of shimmering darkness, and at moments a blinding lattice of shifting geometries that defied logic. Crowe's mind strained against the pressure of seeing it, vision blurring as his brain rejected the contradiction of what stood before him. Patel's voice cracked over comms, panic slipping through. "Captain, my HUD's frying. Visual feeds are spiraling. Hold it together," Crowe snapped. His own visor flickered, data streams failing to make sense of the readings. Dimensional displacement, mass fluctuation, gravity inverting. The impossible. Constant. Voss steadied herself, aiming her rifle but trembling. "Orders, Crowe?" He didn't respond. His gaze locked with the being's center, if it had eyes. The sheer presence was overwhelming. Each thought from it slammed into them like waves of molten lead, digging deeper into their psyche. Memories, shattered fragments, rose in Crowe's mind, battlefields soaked in ash, a lover's face fading into darkness, promises made, promises broken. "Your defiance is meaningless." Crowe grinned despite the pressure making his knees buckle. "That's the thing about humans. We thrive on meaningless." The room exploded with force, soundless yet deafening. The team was thrown backward, crashing against warping walls that twisted into liquid before solidifying again. Maddox coughed, blood trailing from his nose. "This is insane! We're ants in front of a god!" Crowe forced himself up. "No! Gods don't bleed!" he charged. Pure adrenaline, pure defiance. No plan, just momentum. Voss cursed, following without hesitation. Maddox hesitated, then ran after them, screaming, "You people are insane!" The figure raised a hand, or something like it. The space between them folded, and Crowe found himself thrown sideways, yet still moving forward. Reality twisted, up became down. His feet left the ground, but he kept pushing. His mind screamed stop, his body obeyed, go. Voss opened fire, energy rounds absorbed by the air, dispersing into blue mist. "Nothing's getting through." "Then get creative," Crowe barked, dodging a tendril of darkness that lashed out, slicing through solid matter like paper. Patel wasn't fast enough. His scream cut off as the tendril consumed him, armor and all, dissolving into nothing. Henshaw froze in horror. Patel, he just focus or die, Crowe roared. The figure's voice, if it could be called that, reverberated. Witness your futility. And then the throne room changed. No, they changed. Crowe was back on Earth's burning fields, except the sky was the void sea. Bodies littered the ground, his crew. Voss's lifeless eyes stared at him. Maddox knelt in ash, muttering, "It's all pointless. You can't win illusions. No, assaults on the mind." Crowe clenched his fists, refusing. Not real, but it felt real. Pain stabbed into him, memories twisted, guilt weaponized, every failure, every loss thrown back in his face. Then her voice. "Evelyn, why couldn't you save me, Elias?" His chest tightened, a blade of pure sorrow. For a moment he faltered. Then Voss's hand on his shoulder. "Crowe, stay with me!" Her voice cut through like a beacon. "This isn't you, don't let it win." He blinked, reality fractured, and they were back. The figure loomed closer, tendrils flaring. Maddox activated a device on his wrist. Pulse. Grenade, throwing it toward the throne. Boom, light, noise. The figure staggered, if staggering was even the right word. Crowe didn't hesitate. He lunged, blade drawn from his suit compartment. A relic weapon, tungsten edge humming. He slashed. The blade connected, dark ichor, if that's what it was, splattered the air, sizzling against the void. The figure recoiled, form destabilizing. Pain? Curious? "Yeah," Crowe panted. "Feel that? That's humanity in a nutshell. We hurt, we bleed, we fight." Another tendril lashed out. Crowe caught it with his arm, armor crushing but holding. Maddox joined in, slamming a charge into the ground, sending out a localized EMP burst. The figure's form shimmered, destabilizing. "Further, you cannot claim the void." "Watch me," Crowe growled. The structure shook. The void sea outside raged. Maddox screamed, "We need extraction, now!" But Crowe wasn't done. He moved toward the throne, each step resistance-like, walking through concrete. His bones cracked, his vision red. "Voss, Elias, what are you doing?" Crowe, "Taking my seat." He threw himself onto the throne, and the universe screamed. The moment Captain Elias Crowe sat on the throne, the universe convulsed. Reality splintered into a kaleidoscope of chaos. The chamber exploded with light, black and white clashing, folding, tearing. Maddox and Voss were thrown off their feet, screaming as gravity reversed and time twisted. Maddox's visor cracked, blood seeping from his ears. Voss clawed at her helmet, fighting to maintain consciousness against the overwhelming psychic barrage. And Crowe was everywhere. He saw all of it. The void sea wasn't just space. It was sentience, a cosmic consciousness stretching beyond the boundaries of time, feeding on entropy and ambition. Civilizations long dead had tried to claim it, each consumed by their own arrogance. The throne was no seat, it was an interface, a conduit to the mind of the void. "You dare impose your will." The voice shattered through him like 1,000 knives. "You are flesh, finite, a spark in an endless dark." Crowe's mind strained, bones grinding under impossible pressure. Memories flooded in reverse. His childhood on the Martian colonies, the Earth Wars, Evelyn's smile, her death, all offered up like sacrifices to break him. But through the maelstrom, Crowe held. "You think loss breaks me?" He clenched his fists, teeth grinding. "Loss is what made me." The figure, now shifting forms at impossible speeds, lunged forward, tendrils of void reaching to rip him apart. Yet Crowe willed them back, darkness recoiling under sheer defiance. Outside the Dauntless, alarms blared as the ship spun violently. Caught in a gravitational maelstrom, Maddox scrambled toward the controls, fingers bleeding, shields collapsing. "We're gonna be atomized." Voss, gasping for breath, locked eyes with him. "We pull him out! Now!" "I can't," Maddox snapped. "He's tied into the damn thing. It's rewriting physics itself." Crowe's voice echoed over comms, deeper, layered with something not human. "Stay out of it. This is mine to finish." "You are nothing but defiance," the void intoned, "and defiance is fleeting." Crowe laughed. "Not manic, fierce." "That's where you're wrong. You've devoured empires, snuffed out stars. But you've never faced something that doesn't stop. Humanity doesn't quit. We grind, we bleed, and when the universe says die, we say, make me." He reached deeper into the throne, nerves fraying, skin burning from the inside out. Information poured in. Stars born, galaxies consumed, civilizations wept against the same force now trying to break him. "You seek to claim dominion over entropy. You seek to bend me?" Crowe's smile widened. "Damn right I do." Voss, barely holding on to consciousness, whispered, "Come on, Elias, don't let it win." The void screamed. Space twisted. Across the galaxy, sensors pinged anomalies, planets shuddering, stars flickering, entire fleets halted, watching the void sea boil. And then, light. Not from the structure, but from Crowe. His veins glowed with cerulean energy, eyes burning like dying stars. He felt it, the throne yielding. Not submission, recognition. "You are unacceptable, and yet inevitable." Crowe grinned through. "The pain. Welcome to humanity's greatest sin, inevitability." The structure shattered. Darkness collapsed inward, folding into the throne as Crowe stood, cloak of void energy swirling around him. His voice echoed across the comms, clear, commanding, "Extraction. Now." Maddox didn't wait. He triggered the emergency retrieval. The Dauntless's umbilicals snapped taut, magnetic coils dragging them back. Voss grabbed Crowe as debris rained down, pulling him through the collapsing corridors. Maddox activated the thrusters, fire and darkness chasing them down the tunnel. Bang! They catapulted back into the Dauntless. Maddox slammed the hatch shut. "Go, go!" Voss screamed. Engines flared. The Dauntless punched out, barely clearing the collapsing space. Behind them, the monolith crumbled, void tendrils lashing, consuming itself. Silence. Then, explosive tension released as everyone breathed. Crowe collapsed onto the deck. Voss knelt beside him, helmet off, hair damp with sweat. "You insane bastard! You did it!" Crowe chuckled weakly. "Told you. I planned on coming back." Maddox collapsed against a console. "We survived. By some miracle we—" He stopped, looked at Crowe. Crowe's eyes, still glowing faintly. His veins, still lit with that void energy. Voss's smile faded. "Elias," Crowe looked at his hands. They shifted, reality flickering, and beyond the viewport, the void sea bowed. "He didn't just survive it," Maddox whispered. "He rules it." Crowe's gaze remained distant. "Yeah, and now the real question is, what do I do with it?" The galaxy, unknowingly, had just changed forever. Silence reigned in the aftermath. Dauntless drifted beyond a collapsing anomaly, its battered hull creaking with the strain of survival. Emergency lights flickered, casting the bridge in dim crimson hues. Systems sputtered back to life, barely, but the crew remained frozen, gazes locked on one figure, Captain Elias Crowe. He stood at the viewport, arms folded, eyes still faintly glowing with that cerulean hue, the lingering mark of what he'd done, what he had become. Beyond the glass, the void sea churned, but differently now, its once ravenous tendrils coiling in submission. The darkness no longer sought to consume, it obeyed. Maddox broke the silence first, voice low. "So, what? You're the Void King, and now?" Crowe didn't respond. His reflection on the glass stared back at him. Same face, same scars, but something deeper, otherworldly, lingered beneath the surface. Power radiated from him, subtle but undeniable. Voss stepped forward cautiously. "Crowe, Elias, what are you now?" He sighed, voice heavier than before. "Still me, just more." "That's not exactly comforting," Maddox muttered. Crowe turned from the window, gaze sweeping over his crew, what remained of them. Patel was gone. Henshaw lay in the medbay, barely breathing. Too many losses, and yet they'd done what no one else dared, survived the void sea, claimed it. He walked to the command chair, lowering himself into it. Systems flared, monitors, stabilizing, navigation recalibrating faster than human tech should allow. The ship seemed enhanced by proximity to him. Voss shook her head in disbelief. "This is beyond any of us. The galaxy, hell, everyone. They're going to come for us when they find out." "They already know." Crowe tapped a console. A live feed appeared, communications channels ablaze with panicked chatter. "Zyril, forces on high alert, Nethra fleets mobilizing. He claimed the void, a human. This changes everything. We need a counterstrike." Maddox rubbed his face. "Great. We survive God-void thing, and now half the galaxy wants us dead." Crowe's gaze hardened. "Let them come." Voss frowned. "You can't be serious." "We're not gods, Elias. You can't just—" "I'm not a god." Crowe's voice lowered. "But I am the man who walked into the void sea and walked out. I didn't take this power to run from a fight." Voss hesitated, then nodded. "What's the plan?" Crowe glanced back at the swirling darkness outside. "We let the galaxy know one thing. This isn't just about us. This is about balance. For too long, the powerful stomped on the weak. Empires consumed planets like scraps. I've seen enough bloodshed to last 10 lifetimes. Maddox scoffed. "And now you've got the biggest stick in the universe." Crowe smiled faintly. "Exactly, and I intend to use it carefully." The crew absorbed that. Heavy words, heavier responsibility. Voss folded her arms. "You realize this makes you a target for every major power out there?" "Good," Crowe said. "Keeps things interesting. Ping. Incoming transmission. No. Source. No coordinates. Just a voice, metallic, distorted. Captain Crowe. Surrender the void or face annihilation." Crowe leaned forward, hitting the reply button. His voice, calm but commanding, echoed back, "Try me." Static. Silence. Then disconnection. Voss sighed. "Well, subtlety's dead. Never was my strong suit." Crowe stood, addressing the room. "Prep the ship. Reinforce shields. Maddox, I want every weapon system online. Voss, coordinate escape vectors and countermeasures. We don't start the fight, but if they bring it to us—" Maddox grinned. "We end it." Crowe nodded. "Damn right." As the crew sprang into action, Crowe returned to the viewport. The void sea stirred, but now it moved with him, not as master or servant, but symbiote. He whispered to himself, "They thought the void sea destroyed all who entered." A pause, a smirk. "Now it's mine." Outside, the darkness rippled, acknowledging its new king. The galaxy was no longer the same. News of Captain Elias Crowe's conquest of the void sea spread like wildfire, faster than light, faster than reason. Galactic networks flooded with speculation, fear, and awe. Political factions scrambled, armadas were mobilized, treaties shattered. One human had shifted the balance of power overnight, and somewhere amidst the chaos, the Dauntless drifted beyond known charts, hidden within the void's embrace. Safe, if such a place could ever be called that. Crowe stood alone in the observation deck, hands clasped behind his back. Outside, the swirling darkness pulsated, alive, responsive. His reflection on the glass revealed what he'd become. Still human, yet undeniably altered. The faint glow in his veins remained, pulsing in sync with the void. Behind him, Voss approached quietly. Fleet movements showed 27 warships heading toward us. Zyril, Nethra, even the Helian Syndicate. "It's everyone, Crowe." They're not waiting for diplomacy. Didn't expect them to, she sighed. You really think we can stand against all of them? Crowe smiled faintly. Standing's not the issue. It's whether they'll have the guts to cross the line. A long pause stretched between them. Finally, Voss spoke softly. What's this cost you, Elias? He didn't answer right away. Memories flickered. Evelyn's face, the screams of war, the weight of choice. More than I thought, he said. Less than I feared. Voss gave a sad smile. Cryptic as ever. It's a burden, Crowe admitted, but better me than someone worse. Elsewhere on the ship, Maddox ran diagnostics. Systems hummed. Stronger than ever, faster, smarter. Ship's practically rebuilding itself, he muttered. Void tech, can't decide if it's a blessing or a curse. His gaze drifted toward the bridge monitors, tracking incoming fleets. Probably both, he whispered. The galaxy responds across star systems. Leaders debated, generals raged, and citizens wondered, what happens when a man claims the unclaimable? The Zyril War Council voted for immediate retaliation. The Nethra proposed containment, trapping Crowe within the Void Sea. The Helian Syndicate offered him a deal. Power respects power, and on fringe worlds, humans whispered in reverence. One of ours did it. He stood against the universe, and it blinked. Legends spark fast in desperate times. Crowe's name became a symbol of hope. For some, of terror for many, the man who tamed the darkness, the Void King. Back on the Dauntless, Crowe finally broke the silence. Transmit a message. Voss arched a brow. To who? Everyone. Minutes later, screens across the galaxy flickered, feeds cut, signals overridden, and there he was, Captain Elias Crowe, standing in darkness, that faint blue glow tracing his veins. His voice was calm, unshaken. You wanted a statement? Here it is. I don't want your wars. I don't want your thrones. But I will not kneel. I took the Void Sea not for conquest, but to stop those who think they own the stars. Come for me, if you must, but understand this. Cross that line and the darkness you fear. It'll look friendly compared to me. Static. Cut transmission. Voss stared. Subtle. Maddox chimed in over comms. Yeah, that's gonna really calm them down. Crowe smirked. Not here to calm them. Epilogue. Choices and consequences. Later. Alone again. Crowe sat in his quarters, old photographs scattered on the table. Evelyn's face smiled back from one. His fingers traced the image. Would she have understood? He wondered. Maybe. Maybe not. A distant hum echoed through the ship, the void calling, or listening. Hard to tell now, he spoke softly. So, throne's mine. What now? Silence. Then a faint pulse outside the hull. The void responding. Not words. Understanding. Crowe leaned back, exhaling. Yeah, guess we'll figure it out. Outside, the void sea stretched on, endless, patient. The universe watched, and the man who claimed it, he smiled. Sometimes you don't wait for fate to decide. Sometimes you take the throne yourself. Time passes differently at the edge of everything. Weeks after the event that shook the galaxy, the Dauntless floated at the periphery of known space, a solitary sentinel amidst the cosmic ocean. Around it, the void. He churned like a living heartbeat, steady, patient, watchful, no longer a predator, not for this ship, nor for the man inside it. Captain Elias Crowe stood at the observation deck once more, his sanctuary amid the chaos. His reflection flickered in the viewport, eyes that glowed faintly with the void's pulse, veins still etched with cerulean fire. He looked older, not in years, but in weight. The kind of burden no one was meant to carry. Behind him, footsteps echoed. Voss entered, arms crossed. Fleet reports came in, she said. Zyril and Nethra stood down after the Helian Syndicate. Brokered some backdoor deal. They're scared of you. Crowe snorted. "Not me! What's behind me?" His gaze lingered on the swirling darkness beyond. Maddox's voice crackled over comms. "Systems stable. Well, as stable as they get when half your ship's rewired with whatever cosmic horror juice you fused with. We're alive. For now." Crowe tilted his head. "Appreciate the optimism." "Hey," Maddox replied, "when your captain becomes the galaxy's biggest boogeyman, you learn to cope." Voss moved beside Crowe, silence stretching between them. Finally she asked, "What now? You've got a godlike throne, half the galaxy's terrified of us, and you're just waiting here." Crowe thought about that. The easy answer was retaliation. Use. The void to end wars, crush tyrants, enforce peace through sheer fear. But that wasn't the mission. Not really. "I don't rule them," he said. "Never wanted to." "Then why hold on to this?" Voss gestured toward the void. "You are the throne now, Crowe. The question is, what are you going to do with it?" He exhaled slowly, gaze never leaving the black waves beyond. "That's the problem with power like this. Use it, and you become what you fight. Don't, and someone worse comes along to take it," Voss grimaced. "No clean choices. Never was." Outside, distant stars shimmered, tiny pinpricks against the endless dark. Crowe watched them, mind turning over possibilities. He could reshape the galaxy, erase borders, dismantle empires, or he could vanish. Let the legends grow while he kept the darkness at bay. But legends had a habit of becoming myths. Myths got twisted, misused. He sighed. "I'll figure it out." "You always say that," Voss muttered, then softened. "Just don't lose yourself, Crowe. Whatever this thing is, it's watching. Maybe waiting." He nodded. "That's what worries me. Elsewhere in the galaxy on distant worlds, children whispered stories of the Void King. Pirate crews offered prayers before venturing near the sea. Politicians crafted alliances out of fear, not trust. And somewhere, in the depths of uncharted space, a new threat stirred. Watching the man who dared sit on a throne meant for no one, because power never goes unchallenged. And the galaxy, it remembers defiance. Final moments, alone again. Crowe closed his eyes, letting the hum of the ship wash over him. The void pulsed, a heartbeat not entirely his, yet merged. He whispered to the darkness, "If you're alive, if you think. Know this, I'm not your puppet." Silence, then just faintly a ripple of acknowledgement. He smirked. "Good talk." Beyond the ship, the void sea stretched on, uncharted, unknowable. A reminder that some frontiers aren't meant to be crossed unless you're human, unless you're Elias Crowe. They said the void sea destroys all who enter, but sometimes